Welcome to The Arc. This is a podcast series for two very established audiences, the surgical and medical community, as well as the medical technology community. We welcome our entrepreneurs, established business owners, representatives from government, health, insurance, as well as telecommunications from everywhere from Australasia to the Middle East to the US, all in the pursuit of an answer to a common question: how do we succeed in the business of medicine? And we're pleased to have Leanne Boase, one of the founders of Prime Medical Group, a national building and construction leader in healthcare now, and also a nurse practitioner from your beginnings. Welcome, Leanne.
Thanks, Grace.
So, Leanne, you've had a fascinating career. Tell me about your journey running your own medical practice and now a property development. How did it all begin?
Well, I was a nurse practitioner working in a hospital setting and looking, I guess, for a little bit more independence, looking to grow a little bit more into my scope of practice and have a bit more autonomy in the way I worked. So I approached a local general practice and set up basically some casual sessions where I could use their systems and start seeing patients. And from that, I started my own general practice with some GPs that I'd worked with.
Oh, what year was that?
That was about, about 5 or 6 years ago now, so about 2011. And the general practice that I started from the ground up was opened in 2014. We started planning the construction and the business in 2013.
And before you started the business, did you have any formal business training or any exposure to, business theory?
Absolutely none. In the public health sector, the only exposure I'd had was to actually write up a business case for an outpatient clinic that I was asked to establish and lead clinically. And that was really the only experience I'd had, but I had absolutely no training in business whatsoever. And certainly in my undergraduate degree, my postgraduate degrees, my master's, absolutely no business training whatsoever.
That's amazing. How did you go about acquiring that business skill or the business, I guess there's a business acumen, like a kind of gut feel, and then there's the business skill that might actually verify or support that. How did that evolve for you?
I think there was really a couple of ways. One was making mistakes and being able to admit that they were mistakes and learn from them. Another was networking and getting to know people in the industry and having regular conversations and learning from them as well. And certainly, that's very evident in the fact that I now own part of a company with somebody that I worked with on my project, building my practice. He and I now own Prime Medical Property Group together with another partner. So, that goes to show you how working relationships can develop. And I certainly learned a lot from them when I was building my own business. And I think it's just being open to learning about business and also acknowledging your own shortcomings. You have to be able to do that to learn.
That's brilliant. And I understand that you now also give back to others in teaching other nurse practitioners some fundamentals of running their own practices.
Yeah, well, look, every practice is different. Every business situation is different, and I think really you have to plan your business to suit you and what your aims and your goals are. And you have to also plan your business so that it works for you. You also should design have your business plan working for you so that you don't have to spend a lot of time on the actual business of running a business, that you can still focus on seeing patients. Because aside from the general practice, I also work across 4 other practices seeing patients myself. And that also in itself is a business as well.
So a kind of mobile healthcare business.
Yeah, so I sort of didn't want to be constrained into one location, and I offer a fairly specialised service in addition to the generalist stuff. And I recognised that that was something that was easily marketed, I guess. It's very attractive to a lot of people. And also, as soon as I realised how far people were driving to see me, I thought, well, really, I should make this a bit more mobile, a bit more available to more people. And I actually quite like moving around and being a bit more independent and being a bit more autonomous as well.
What's the advantage that gives you?
Really, it actually widens my network more than anything. So I'm regularly communicating with specialists and GPs and maternal child health nurses and in all different parts of Melbourne where I'm practicing, because I'm out there in their communities seeing their patients and I'm communicating with them regularly. So it's widening my networks. It's also enhancing my experience and adding to my experience. It's very, very valuable networking with these people. I've also got because I predominantly see children now, I've got a big network of paediatricians that now know me across Melbourne because I've spread myself out and I go into the communities that need me, so I'll also end up coming in contact with them as well. So it's really beneficial for me and really developed my practice very well.
So what does your typical week look like then?
Well, at the moment, a bit confusing, but on a Monday I will do a few hours as a business consultant in the GP practice, and then I'll do a few hours with Prime Medical Property Group depending on what's scheduled for that day. Every second Tuesday I work in one clinic, and the alternate Tuesday I work in another seeing patients. One of those is just a half day to allow for meetings to be scheduled every alternate Tuesday morning for Prime. Wednesdays I stay home with my 3-year-old. And then Thursdays are generally pretty flexible. I do some presenting at conferences, or predominantly I'll work with Prime Medical Property Group that day. And then Fridays it's an alternating calendar again where I'll see patients in another location every second Friday. And the alternate Fridays I typically work for Prime Medical Property Group, but I also do some teaching for one of the universities in Melbourne as well. So every week's a bit different, but the only regular part of my schedule really is those patient sessions.
So do your patient sessions, or does your week usually rotate around a 2-week kind of cycle?
Yeah, well, everything's a 2-week cycle except for one of the clinics is on a 4-week cycle. And that's simply because I couldn't fit any more in because Prime Medical Property Group's getting so busy. But I think it's fair to say no matter how busy that gets, I'll always still work clinically.
Okay. What's it like handling patients as you go from location to location? How do you keep track of that all?
Well, that is the real challenge in it, because it depends on the arrangements. I have different arrangements in each practice, and I really see this as an opportunity for somebody an entrepreneur, to look at ways of solving these problems. You probably need to delete that, actually. Delete that. Can you ask the question again?
Yeah, let's try it again. So how do you handle patients moving from location to location?
Yeah, it can be a bit tricky because each practice has different expectations, and also obviously I have expectations of what I want. For example, in one practice I do not use their system at all, so all the patients are on my medical software on my laptop, and I manage all of their information. Whereas in other practices where I use their software and their system, I'm, that they own that information, so I can't take that with me. However, I do have a lot of patients that see me across different sites, so it can get quite difficult to keep track of what's going on. So what I do have is a website where people can make contact with me centrally. However, that website directs them to make their appointments with each individual practice. So it is a little bit difficult to manage. So I have to call each practice the day before I go there to see what time I need to start, how many patients I've got booked in and what my day looks like, because I can't see it otherwise. So all 4 different appointment systems. Billing is done in 3 different ways across the 4 practices, so it's all can be a bit confusing. For one of the practices, I'm completely independent, don't have anything. They don't do really anything for me, and in another one, they insist on doing my billing and my booking and controlling everything. So it can vary from anything, where you might as well be, you've really got nothing to do with the practice, all the way through to they want to control everything. So I think when you start out, it's really important to work out what you want to do with appointments, whether you want to do your own billing, whether you want to control the medical record, or have your own software or use theirs, and consider in advance how many sites you're going to work across, and whether it might work better for you to go in and say, look, this is how I need to work. Because that's what I'm now trying to do. I'm trying to go back to these and say, guys, I want to make some changes because it's very inconsistent for me, and this is how I want it to look now.
What strategies have you tried before and they've failed with managing across different locations?
Yeah, so I've tried to keep track of patients as far as what practice they're seeing me in and how many times they've seen me, because that gives me an idea of, it gives me, I guess, triggers to remember more about their clinical picture and where they're up to with their treatment. But I found that was too time consuming to try and keep like a log of all the patient names and where they've been seeing me. Really, the practice is just too busy to be collecting extra data. So another thought I had was centralising appointments on my website so that I could at least go in and see what my day was going to look like. But a couple of the practices were really against that. They wanted to control the appointments and they wanted people to ring the practice to book in. So pretty much everything where I've tried to centralise has not been terribly successful so far. So again, I think it's about going in the first instance and saying, all right, I'd like to, join your practice, but this is how it's going to work. Because once you've got a system in place, it's very difficult to change it.
What do you think practitioners considering making the move into their own business, even a multi-site business, should be prepared for?
Look, I think one of the mistakes that people make is not seeing themselves as a business. So if you are thinking about seeing people in the private sector, that automatically makes this a business situation. Especially multi-site, there's an awful lot to consider. It's hard for healthcare professionals to see themselves as business people. But once you are responsible for seeing patients in the private sector, keeping track of your billing and appointments, you really are a business. So take the time to prepare. I mean, obviously you have to get an ABN, you have to register for GST, all of those things, which your accountant can help you with, but you have to start seeing yourself as a business. You have to look at bookkeeping options. There is now more to this than just the clinical side. No matter how big or small you are, it's all in the planning. And I think, if I could go back, I'd do a lot more planning. Yeah, it's fair to say that I didn't think it'd get this busy and I didn't think things would get this big, but would have been good in hindsight to have some more business planning in place in the first instance. And if I just saw what I was doing as a business rather than, a healthcare professional seeing a few patients, I think I would have been better prepared.
And we've just recently co-authored a book on medical business management, and a lot of these details, if not more, can actually be found in those pages just in the first chapter.
Yeah, that's right. We did write a lot on medical business management. Obviously, that's the title of the book, but we have mentioned the mobile health practitioner in there as well. And there's a lot of resources that we've developed to go along with the book as well for mobile health practitioners. But really, I think the key thing in the book is in the first chapter, as you said, where we do say, reading this book, you might think it's just for people wanting to set up a practice of their own. But really, the key points in every chapter relate to not just the person that's building the physical premises and employing staff and doing all of those things, but it also relates to the mobile practitioner. You should view every aspect of that book with that in mind as well, because that is also a business and needs to be set up properly. You still, if you look through the book and you see all of the IT considerations, as a mobile practitioner, you've got to have the right IT system in place. In fact, you've got to set up a mobile IT system. So, you've got to think about security and backing up and all of those things. So every chapter in the book might seem like it's related to that physical premises, but actually mobile practitioners should consider every aspect of it as well. And I think that's where a lot of people do make mistakes. They really think having a business relates to a physical premises, but it doesn't.
Business has to stand on its own legs, irrespective of the location.
That's right. Or, even if it's multiple locations. If you may see yourself as not having a home, but you still have a business.
Very true. Actually, it's one of the things I really enjoyed about writing the book with you is that, you definitely set out this prospect. You treated it exactly like a business in just writing that book. It's incredibly ordered. There was a plan, there was assignment of duty, and I think everything that we touched upon in the book we actually did whilst writing the book as well. So I definitely have to acknowledge that made it so much more enjoyable as well as a business. So
some people would just call that bossy, but
I don't think so.
Yeah, some people do actually.
So, final question: what do you know now that you wish you knew then? Back 5 years ago when you made that big decision to start your own business, in all its different facets.
Oh gosh, that was actually the motivation for the book. I think the biggest thing I've learned is when everybody makes mistakes, and health professionals are not trained in business. And I think there's a general reluctance, not just with health professionals, but with everyone, to admit when they've made mistakes. And I see mistakes as the biggest learning opportunity and the most valuable learning opportunity. I just wish I had picked up on that a bit earlier. And I I think that's where my most significant learnings come from, and that's really, you know, when I wanted to plan the book out, it was based on the most significant learnings I've made from the mistakes that I've made. And when I do go out and speak at conferences, and I start speaking and I say, I'm going to tell you about all the mistakes I've made, all the people sit back in their chairs and go, oh my God, why is she telling us about her mistakes? And I think, you know what, we need to talk about it.
Yeah, there's not.
And
yeah.
the other thing is, business shouldn't be a big secret. How you run your business, I understand keeping some things confidential and intellectual property and all that. But, we've really got a lot to learn from each other, and networking is very, very important for that.
There's not a lot of people out there talking about the things that go wrong in the medical environment, and I think it comes from a big medico-legal fear culture, basically. So it's incredibly refreshing to have this access. So thank you.
I think too, a lot of health professionals, or many health professionals, are such experts in their fields, and they're so highly regarded in their fields, it's almost a bit of a taboo to say, look, I really don't know what I'm doing in business, because they're held in such high esteem in their fields. And just admitting that you're perhaps not the best at running a business or establishing a business doesn't mean you're a poor clinician. But I think there's a general reluctance to admit to a lack of knowledge.
And yet it can have such a big impact, kind of, it determines
huge.
when you retire, when, how you retire, what manner in which you basically live out and enjoy the rest of your career, basically, the best part of your career.
Yeah, yep.
So incredibly valuable insights, and can't wait to see the finished product that's being released next week, I understand. For the people listening to the audio broadcast, stay tuned for the release in early April. Leanne, any places where they can see you talk or catch more of your wisdom and consulting if they need to?
All the information is really in the book on how to make contact. I will be speaking at a few conferences, hopefully at a few Primary Health Network meetings and things like that over the next 6 months. So keep your eyes out for that. I guess you can always have a look on the MediBusiness website, and there should be updates on there.
Mm-hmm. And that's medibusiness.com.au.
Yep.
And Prime Medical Property Group?
Prime Medical Property Group, that's pmpg.com.au. And, oh gosh, sorry, I have to check that.
We might record the last bit again, sorry. Okay. Oh goodness, the poor editing person. Let me just stop this. Okay, we're just gonna record the last bit again, okay? Some really valuable, thanks Leanne, some really valuable insights there. So if people want to get in contact, what's the best place for them to continue to read about your thoughts?
Well, the MediBusiness website does have lots of information on what's happening and where I'm going to be, or primemedicalpropertygroup.com.au, which is the medical property development group that I have, and my contact details are also on there.